What's up guys, Jeebs here, and we're doing a follow-up video on the review to the Civic Si I did. If you didn't see the review for the Civic Si, check the card on the top of your screen and you can enjoy that. Now every time I do a review, I like to follow up with why Focus ST over so-and-so car, and then why that car over Focus ST if they're kind of in the same class, just to give you a balanced look from my perspective, at least, having owning this car and then reviewing and driving other cars. So I hope that helps you, and it seems like a lot of you appreciate that feedback. So this isn't a biased channel, you know, we're fair and balanced, just like Fox News here. I just wanted to defend the Civic Si, why you should choose a Civic Si over a Focus ST. First thing is efficiency. The Civic gets like 30 miles per gallon city and then 38 miles per gallon highway. It's not even that different from a base model Civic, and a lot of the reason it's so efficient is lightweight, and then also not having a ton of power. So the power to weight ratio in that car is pretty good. And acceleration wise, I'd be interested to see stock to stock what a Civic and a Focus ST is like. I'm sure I could look that up online, but I bet it's closer than you would think. Right off the bat, efficiency, and it's a big difference. I mean, you're really gonna feel, you're gonna be filling up a lot less in a Civic, and if you keep your foot off of it, I mean, you're really gonna get a lot out of that car. I don't want to comment much on the looks of the Civic versus the Focus, because really that's just going to come down to personal preference. I think they're both looking cars. What I said in my previous video, if you haven't seen my video on why Focus ST over Civic Si, check the card on the top of your screen and you can view that. What I said in that video is I feel like the ST is more aggressive looking than the Si, and I also don't like that the Si is very similar in style to just a normal Civic Sport or something like that. Like, it does take a good eye to differentiate both of them if it has a sport appearance package on it. So in my opinion, I think they could have done a little bit more to really differentiate it, but they're both good looking cars. Let's jump into the performance now. The power is down in the Civic Si, but the weight is also down. And it also has a limited slip differential. And I owned a 2011 Si Coupe, and I absolutely love that car. It is a K20 Z3 engine, 197 horsepower. I think it was 146 foot-pounds of torque, so no torque. But revving that to 8,000 RPMs, naturally aspirated, it sounded good. I left the car completely stock. I had it for 4 years, maybe almost 5 years, 62,000 miles. That car was so fun to drive. I mean, being in VTEC, and if you shifted correctly, you would stay in VTEC, so you could know like kind of how you were shifting. I mean, it was a fun car, and I still miss it. And it was simple, and they did everything right. And the new Civic is kind of the same way with a lot more technology. So we talked about the efficiency. What I was getting at with that is I went from having a car with a limited slip differential, a helical limited slip differential, and to be totally honest with you, I don't know the difference between a helical limited slip differential and a limited slip differential. Someone can explain that in the comments. It makes the front end of that car handle the power that it does have around turns so well. When you get into a tight hairpin turn, you feel the power transfer from one wheel to the other, and then the car pulls out of the turn. Whereas the Focus ST in that sense, compared to the Civic Si, feels clumsy. When you get into some tighter turns, it kind of will push. It's not that the car understeers, it just handles in a different manner. Because this car, I will say, the chassis is excellent on the ST. The way it reacts, it's very playful. Like the back end will slide out. So I'm not putting down the ST in that sense. It's a lot of fun. It's just, if it had a limited slip differential from the factory like the Si does, this would be literally perfect for a front wheel drive car and the power it has. So if you want to get that upgrade, that's $1,000 plus installation, and that's usually something you can't do at your house. It's a pretty difficult install. So another $1,000 added on to the ST, whereas the Si comes with that at a pretty fair price. Reason that I just got into a little bit is technology. Doug DeMuro recently made a video on how the reason you should be picking a new car over an older car is because of the technological advancements in safety, in the dashboard, all this stuff that you can benefit from. Mainly safety was his point. But it is cool. I mean, if you look at this shot here of George scrolling through the screens of his Civic Si, you can take a look at suspension, the turbo, boost gauge. I mean, there's just a lot you can scroll through here on a nice display. I personally really like analog displays. I like seeing the dials. I know Audi has their virtual cockpit, so and it looks really cool, but there's something about having a dial there, and I feel like the perfect balance is some type of hybrid between them, where you have your dial, but then there's a screen around it, or something like that, I think is the perfect fix. But, I mean, eventually I think we're all going to be going to these fully digital displays, and I will say I like the one in the SI. It did look cool. So, you know, it's not all bad, but that's just a personal preference of mine. And really, we all get, you know, like the new Supra's out right now, and everyone's, oh, it's not a Supra, I hate it, because it's change. Everyone's always uncomfortable with change when, you know, the last time they made the Supra was 2002, so we're just living off of the past. So my point is that the technology, even though the technology in the Focus ST, again, I have an ST3, so I have all the technology you could possibly have, it's just better. It's just newer, and the advancements are just leaps and bounds better every time a new car comes out. It's really crazy how fast we're advancing. I mean, the fact that I remember when I was driving his car, I think I put a left turn or right turn signal on, and the whole navigation screen lit up to show me like the blind spot there of me turning right. So just something like that. I mean, I was like, wow, like this is, you know, not too long ago, this was technology that were in S-Class Mercedes, and maybe not even that. And the fact that these cheaper entry-level cars have that type of safety technology, I think is really impressive. So again, advanced as this car is, they don't make it anymore, and the SI comes with a lot of that standard. There's not many options you can throw on the SI. There is the Performance Appearance Package, I think it's called. It's a $3,999 upgrade, and you get nice wheels, body kit, a couple other things. But for $4,000, I was like, oh my god, that's insane. It's cool too, though, that you can have that option to add that on. The other thing I'll say is, for both of these cars, no matter which way you go, you have a huge aftermarket community. It might be bigger for the Civic Si in the long run because it's a Honda, and the Honda lineage in the United States is way longer than the ST is. The ST only being produced for 5 years in the United States. It's just that there's not as many people that know ST that know SI. So for that reason, I think in the long run, there will be a bigger aftermarket community for the SI. However, right now for the ST, there's a huge aftermarket community, and that's going to continue for years, even though they're not producing it. So there's that as well. Interior-wise, that's really a personal. That's going to come down to your personal preference. The SI has better technology. It has adaptive suspension, and it's not a gimmick. The only thing I didn't really notice a difference in was throttle response. If I was able to drive that car a little bit longer and test hitting it on and off, I bet I would be able to feel it. But what I did feel is the steering response, the steering rack got heavier, the feel was heavier, and the suspension tightened up. And just the fact that you can have a Honda Civic Si that has adaptive suspension and adaptive steering feel, that is so cool to me. That's just so cool. You hit the sport button and it actually does something. That's just, I don't know, for what the car is like $24,000, there's a lot packed into there that's really fun. And if you put the performance figures aside, I think it's a hard to argue for the ST, unless it does have more raw power. I think it pulls hard, like well over 100 miles per hour, which the SI would run out of air. But it's, you know, for bang for your buck, I think the Honda's probably better, because a base ST and a base Honda is really not comparable. There's nothing that comes in the ST. The technology's outdated, whereas the Honda gives you everything. So, you know, base to base, if you go ST3 to Honda, you know, they're more in line with one another. But it really is a great value, and I think it's a car that you should highly consider. Again, me owning one, I had no complaints with it. I loved it. Everyone wants to talk about Honda's reliability. In my Honda, I had no massive failures. In my ST, I've had no massive failures. I've had little things, little manufacturer defects in both cars though. For example, in my Honda, I had a spring that was wired incorrectly for the trunk. So every time I play the speakers, you'd get this weird vibration. And it took me over a year to figure out it was the spring that was vibrating up against something because it was improperly hooked onto the car. So that was something from the factory. With my ST, there was the miles per gallon weren't reading correctly, and there was a vibration in the roof. So I also, in my Honda, the center lid had to be replaced because it broke. It wasn't installed correctly from the manufacturer. So there's little things that I've had with both cars equally. So it's not like the Honda was absolutely perfect. Now, engine-wise, for both of these cars, they've been perfect. So my point is, the Honda just came out with a new turbo engine. I will say that they've been very conservative with the power figures on that car. So the turbo, like on this ST, the ST is pushing it a lot more. Ford just does that. Like, look what they did with the RS. They pushed that block basically to the max, which ended up having a large recall and some failures. But then again, you have 350 horsepower. So it depends where you want to go. And when Ford makes an ST or an RS model, they're really going to go full throttle, whereas Honda is much more conservative in that sense. But they have the Type R as well. So my point is, it's a new turbocharged engine, and I don't know that the old reliability argument is there because it's just really not a proven engine yet. Just something to consider. The other thing you have to consider is, do you like hatchbacks? If you do, you can't get the SI in a hatchback anymore. The only way you can get the SI is in a coupe or a sedan. The weights really don't vary much between the two. Personally, I think the coupe looks better. I mean, coupes always look better in most cases. But you do have two options. You have a coupe, you have a sedan. One I reviewed was a sedan, but you have both of those, but you can't get it in a hatchback. If you love hatchbacks, then you're gonna have to go the SI route, or I would argue go with the Velociter N. I saw a Velociter N the other day. It was driving around Tempe, it was black. The exhaust, I mean, I heard the exhaust and then I didn't recognize it, and I looked around. That thing sounds incredible. Like, it is, I mean, that is such a good car. I'm so tempted to get it, but I have something else in the works. So it is, if you're looking for a front wheel drive hot hatch for a good price, get the Velociter N. No question. I mean, that thing sounds incredible, looks incredible, and the dealerships are starting to get them. I would check it out. But that's the conclusion of my video. I like to try to make these balanced, fair, I like to try to make these fair assessments of both cars to give you good consumer information, just because when I was shopping for a car, I exhausted basically every video on YouTube. For example, I've looked at every single M2 video on YouTube. I mean, literally have covered almost all of them. There's really not that much out there. If I owned that car, there'd be a lot more, let's just say that. I hope this helps. And then in the comments below, if you guys own one or the other, let us know what your thoughts are. Have you had issues? Why do you like one over the other? What made you choose your car over the other car? So I think that'll help everyone. I usually get a lot of likes on these videos, so let's keep that up. Go ahead and tap it. I'm not even gonna tell you to smash it. I don't want you to exhaust energy on me. Just tap the like button. Just a little tappy. So that's it. Thank you all for watching. If you're new to the channel, I post videos every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's when you can expect to have new videos always coming out. And if I get backlogged with a lot of videos, which right now I do have a lot, I might post other times throughout the week. So just hit the notification bell, that way you know when I'm posting, if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to. And we'll go from there. So I appreciate you guys watching the videos, supporting me. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.